We have worked with while loops and do while loops. So let's take a look at the third method for looping and see maybe some situations where we might want to use it. So we're going to create something called for loops, which is a pretty common loop type in a lot of programming languages. So what we're going to do, we've got this scanner in here. We're going to get some user input. Now I'm going to create a for loop here and show you the different components of it. So we start with the word for, and there's three components. The first one is we're going to type int I equals 1. So this loop is going to count from 1 to 10. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to start with what our starting number is. So this one, int I equals 1, is to initialize the counter. And here we're actually declaring it as part of the loop. So int I creates the variable I. Now we're going to go while I is less than or equal to 10. So that's kind of like a while loop thing. So the I less than or equal to 10, this is the loop condition. So this is what is going to check. If this is true, then it's going to loop. As long as I is less than or equal to 10, it's going to loop. Now what we also want to do is we want to increase the counter every time. So we're going to go I plus plus. And then we're going to open it. Okay, so the I plus plus is the growth term. So it refers to how much I is going to be increasing by every time we go through the loop. Okay, so we've got our loop set. The first time it goes through, I is going to be 1, and then it's going to count all the way up to 10. So what I want to do is I'm going to do a system.out.print I. So I want them all on one line. And then what I want to do is I want to put a comma after it. So system.out.print, and we're going to print a comma just like that. So now, if I run the program, this is what we're going to get. We're going to get a count from 1 to 10, but there's a few things we're going to adjust. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One of the things we will be adjusting is the fact that there's a comma following the 10. So we've got a lot of our classic variable types here. What I'm going to do here is it's going to help us know that we are on the last loop. If I incorporate a flag here, so or a sentinel, so final int n is going to be 10. So this is going to be our sentinel for the end condition of the loop. Now, I'm going to replace this by n, which is way more convenient. So if I want to switch this to 12, I don't actually have to change this as part of the loop. Now, the last thing that I want to do is I don't want to do this every time. I want to do it every single time as long as it's not the last time through the loop. So if I is less than n, so I want to make sure that I'm on every iteration through the loop other than the last one, we're going to get that comma. So I'm going to run, and you can see it will not put a comma at the end. So sometimes you may want to have something different happen in your for loop on the first time, or more commonly on the last time through the loop. So you can use some if statements to kind of customize what's happening depending on which time through the loop it is. Okay. So I'm going to just put a little divider between that and the next part of the program because I don't typically like declaring variables in the middle of the program, but this is kind of like a separate thing. So for this one, we're going to declare everything before the loop. And I'll show you why. We'll put that on hold. So if I run this loop, what I want to do is... Maybe I'll just delete this for now. system.out.print I. Let's see what I is going to be equal to after the loop is done. So I'm going to run this, and I get an error. It actually does not know where I is. So what happens is, on this line, I is created, and then when it hits this line, I is destroyed. So what we refer to this as, the term for this is the scope of I is the loop. So the loop, this I only exists within the loop. So I'm going to remove this line of code. Okay, back to what we were doing. Int I, this is going to be our counter. So we'll do something a little bit different with this. And we're going to have a start number. We are going to have an end count. So we'll be counting up. And then we're also going to have a number that we're going to be skipping by every time we go through. So end count in here is going to be our sentinel. Now, even though, say, like we're going to count increasing by 3s or something like that, I will still be a counter even though it's not growing by 1 every time. So let's write our for loop. So when I am using an existing variable that I've declared before the loop, this is how the initialization is different. So I gets the value start. I don't put int here because I already have it created. So I gets the value of start, and we're going to go while I is less than or equal to end count, and we're going to go I plus equals skip. So that's how this is going to work. So let's do just a quick prompt for each of these values. So system.out.print start number. I don't have to do really good prompts for this because we're using this to test it out. So in a real program. So start equals input dot next int. Okay. Got star here. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do this for the rest of them. All right, we'll have our end number, and we'll put skip by how much. Okay, so our end number will be end count. Our number here will be skip. And then we'll be ready to essentially do this exact thing. So I'm going to copy and paste. And I am going to do this while I is less than end count. Let's do it this way. So now what I want to do is I'll try this. So let's run this, see what happens. Oh, I'm going to have to put an println here, but the start number, let's say it's 11. We'll go to 45, and we'll skip by 3. Now, we've got a bit of a problem here, is occasionally what we're going to be doing is we'll be skipping over specifically the end number. So you can see the end number is 45. We don't actually see 45 here. So we have a little bit of a problem with our comma. So what we do is we're going to have this go, we'll incorporate the skip value to predict when our loop is going to end. So we'll keep going while I plus the skip value. It's a little different because it's not growing by 1 every time, so we have to incorporate skip. While I plus the skip value is less than or equal to the end count. And the only other thing I wanted to do was put a println between these. System.out.println. Okay. So now running that, we're going to go, say, let's start at 10, let's go to 30 and skip by 7. And now our comma situation is fixed. Okay, we're going to do one more just to show you a bit of an unusual situation, which may come up. You never know. So for this third component of the program, first thing I'm going to do, system.out.println, and what I want to do is I'm going to have a number of jelly beans. And we're going to prompt the user for how many jelly beans they have to eat. So, how many jelly beans do you have to eat? And we'll have jelly beans be here. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to write a for loop that is going to reduce the amount of jelly beans by 1 every time. They're going to eat 1 every time through the loop. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to write a for loop. Now, I'm a little bit lost in terms of how I would use jelly beans as the counter value here. What I want it to do is go down from, the amount of jelly beans to 0. Now, I could do this. I equals jelly beans. But imagine that I didn't want to create an extra variable. I just wanted to use jelly beans. It'll start at 10. And then jelly beans itself will reduce to 0. And then I'll know that I have run out of jelly beans after the loop. So this seems odd, but you can't do this either. Just write jelly beans, and then for this it would be, we're going to go while jelly beans is larger than 0, and jelly beans minus minus. So if I run this, I'm going to get an error. It has an issue here because you have to start with a statement. Putting a variable isn't a statement. It's not like a line of code. So I have to figure out what to put here. So this seems odd, but you can get around this by making jelly beans equal jelly beans. So it's going to get its own value. This satisfies the fact that we have a statement to begin this. And then inside the loop, it's going to work like this. So system.out.println, I'm going to say jelly beans plus, and then left, we'll tell them how many jelly beans they have left. And then we'll tell them that they are eating 1. I'm just going to put num 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 here. The sound, I assume, of eating a jelly bean. And then we'll run that program. I'll still have to go through the middle part. That's okay. 1037 was the last one. Okay, now how many jelly beans do I have? I have 6 jelly beans. So it's going to go like this. Now what I want to do is if I've got 0 left, which I know I'm going to have, but I'm just going to show you how you can access this outside of the loop. So if jelly beans equals 0, then system.out.println no more jelly beans. And sad face. Okay. So now, if I run this, remember this is different from what we had before. Before, I could not access I because of the way that it was declared as part of the loop. However, with this one, 10, 30, 70, here we go. Okay, how many jelly beans? Let's go 7. We've got 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then, oh no, no more jelly beans. So you can see that what happens in the loop is we get, we've got 1 left, we eat the 1, it goes back up to the top here, reduces jelly beans by 1, making it 0. This becomes a false statement. Then the for loop ends and it gets to here, and our jelly bean amount is 0. So in this case, the scope of jelly beans is the entire main program. I mean, it'll cause you an issue if you're trying to access it before the declare line, but this is how we refer to the scope of jelly beans. And because we usually make them the main program, this is why variables always go to the beginning. The variables always go to the beginning so that their scope can be the entire main program. So this is a little bit of an example of how to use for loops, and we'll use them for a whole bunch of things, but the key is that they need to know when they're going to end, essentially like how many times they're going to run before the loop begins running.